You know those plans that are absolutely foolproof, guaranteed to work. Yeah, this video is about the exact moment they didn't. From the Titanic to the Suez Canal blockage, disaster loved overconfidence. Engineers, generals, tech billionaires, even festival planners all make the same mistake. They think nothing can go wrong, and then everything collapses instantly. We'll rewind the moment the bragging stopped and panic really started. You'll see perfect defenses outflanked, gadgets backfire, and marketing become memes. And the scariest part is how familiar their thinking still sounds. Watch these 39 brilliant plans fail in record time. Unsinkable Titanic sinks on its very first voyage. The ship billed unsinkable ended up on the Atlantic seafloor. In April 1912, the British liner Titanic left Southampton for New York. Passengers trusted cutting-edge, watertight compartments and too few lifeboats completely. Lookouts spotted an iceberg late on a calm, moonless North Atlantic night. The collision ripped open several hull compartments, flooding past what designers predicted. Crew tried steering away and sealing doors, but water kept advancing. Within about 3 hours, the bow plunged, stern lifted, and ship broke. Over 1,500 people died as nearby ships missed distress. Today, the rusting wreck remains a reminder that marketing beat basic safety. Titan tourist subdive ends in catastrophic ocean implosion. 5 wealthy passengers expected bragging rights, not instant death near Titanic. In 2023, the Titan submersible descended toward the wreck off Newfoundland. OceanGate marketed its experimental carbon fiber hull as innovative tourism. Experts had repeatedly warned about certification, materials fatigue, and improvised safety procedures. About 90 minutes into the dive, contact with the surface ship vanished. Rescue teams from the United States and Canada launched a massive search. For days, news networks tracked oxygen countdowns, though the implosion happened earlier. Debris fields later confirmed the pressure hull had failed suddenly at depth. Instead of exclusive selfies, the Titan became another cautionary tale beside Titanic. Space Shuttle Challenger launches, then disintegrates seconds after liftoff. Millions watched live as Challenger exploded, turning a routine launch horrific. In January 1986, NASA launched the shuttle from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The mission included Krista McAuliffe, a teacher chosen to inspire classrooms worldwide. Engineers had worried about rubber O-ring seals in unusually cold weather. Those concerns were downplayed during schedule pressure and televised expectations for success. 73 seconds after liftoff, a booster joint failed, releasing burning propellant. Flames pierced the external tank, and the orbiter broke apart mid-air. Debris fell into the Atlantic, and recovery ships searched for months. The disaster froze shuttle flights and exposed painful communication breakdowns inside NASA. Hindenburg airship grand arrival turns into a fiery catastrophe. Germany's Pride airship arrived in New Jersey and ended as burning wreckage. In 1937, the Hindenburg approached Lakehurst, New Jersey, carrying passengers and crew. The Zeppelin's silver skin and swastika fins symbolized Nazi technological confidence. As it maneuvered to dock, witnesses saw a flash near the tail. Highly flammable hydrogen gas ignited, and flames raced along the airship's length. In less than a minute, the entire structure collapsed to the ground. Newsreel cameras captured passengers jumping, crew scrambling, and spectators running in panic. 36 people died, even though rescue crews were already standing nearby. After Hindenburg's fall, commercial passenger airships effectively disappeared from global travel. Vasa warship sinks minutes into her glorious maiden voyage. Sweden's mighty Vasa warship barely left Stockholm harbor before capsizing dramatically. In 1628, King Gustavus Adolphus wanted an intimidating floating symbol of power. Shipbuilders stacked multiple gun decks and heavy cannon higher than usual designs. On her first voyage, a gust of wind pushed Vasa. Open gun ports sat close to the waterline, already flirting with disaster. As the ship heeled, water poured through ports into decks. Within minutes, the warship rolled over and sank before horrified onlookers. Salvage efforts failed, and Vasa lay preserved in cold Baltic mud. Centuries later, archaeologists raised Vasa, transforming royal embarrassment into museum centerpiece. Ever given wedges in Suez Canal, freezing global trade. A gust of wind turned a routine transit into chaos. In March 2021, the container ship Ever Given entered Egypt's Suez Canal. High winds and narrow channels pushed the Japanese-owned vessel diagonally across. Its bow lodged in one bank while stern blocked the channel. Within days, hundreds of ships stacked up in Red Sea and Mediterranean. Tugboats strained, excavators dug sand, and satellite photos showed a stuck shoebox. The blockage delayed oil, consumer goods, and even livestock shipments. Egyptian authorities finally refloated the ship using tides, dredging, and powerful tugs. For weeks afterward, memes of an excavator and beached colossus circulated globally. The Maginot Line lets German tanks simply drive around. France built a concrete wall and Germany answered with a detour. After World War I, French leaders feared another brutal German invasion. They poured resources into the Maginot Line, a chain of underground fortresses. Artillery turrets, rail lines, and filtered bunkers lined the German border. Commanders assumed the dense Ardennes forest was impassable for serious armored forces. In 1940, German panzer divisions simply swept through Belgium and the Ardennes. They bypassed most fixed defenses, encircling French and British armies in weeks. Maginot fortresses fought stubborn local battles while the front collapsed elsewhere. The line remained intact on maps, but France fell behind it. Gallipoli landings promise quick victory stall bloodily on the beaches. An Allied shortcut to knock out the Ottoman Empire jammed immediately. In 1915, Britain and France targeted the Dardanelles Straits near Gallipoli, Turkey. They hoped capturing Constantinople would reopen Russian supplies and pressure Germany. The Anzac and British troops landed on steep cliffs and narrow coves. Ottoman forces under Mustafa Kemal quickly organized counterattacks from higher ground. Trenches, disease, and heat turned the peninsula into a stagnant nightmare campaign. Months of assaults gained only yards, with horrific casualties on both sides. Eventually, commanders evacuated the Allies at night, leaving empty trenches behind. The failed plan shaped national memories in Australia, New Zealand, and Turkey. Charge of the Light Brigade turns bold plan into disaster. A misheard order sent British cavalry galloping straight into concentrated artillery. During the Crimean War in 1854, Allies fought Russian forces near Balaclava. Confused officers argued over commands about seizing guns on surrounding hills. The Light Brigade received instructions that seemed to indicate a frontal charge. Around 600 horsemen rode down a valley flanked by Russian cannon. Shells and musket fire tore through the formation as they advanced. Survivors briefly reached enemy batteries, fought hand-to-hand, then retreated shattered. The blunder became famous through paintings and poetry, overshadowing tactical objectives. For later armies, it symbolized bravery wasted by muddled high command. Tacoma Narrows Bridge celebrated, then dramatically collapses in high winds. Drivers nicknamed it Galloping Gertie before the bridge literally tore itself apart. In 1940, Washington State opened a sleek suspension bridge over Puget Sound. Engineers favored a narrow, elegant deck to save money and materials. Moderate winds caused the roadway to undulate, twisting in slow, dramatic waves. On a windy November day, oscillations grew stronger instead of damping out. Cables snapped, concrete cracked, and the central span tore free completely. One frightened dog died, but people managed to escape beforehand. Newsreel footage of the writhing bridge became iconic in engineering classrooms worldwide. The collapse reshaped bridge design, forcing better understanding of wind-induced resonance. Leaning Tower of Pisa starts tilting before construction even finishes. Italy's most famous architectural mistake started going wrong by the third floor. Construction of the bell tower in Pisa began during medieval times. Builders placed heavy stone columns on soft soil near the river. After only a few levels, one side began sinking more than expected. Work paused for wars, unintentionally letting the soil settle under uneven weight. Later, architects compensated by building upper floors slightly taller on one side. The lean kept increasing, eventually reaching a terrifying angle in modern measurements. In the late 20th century, engineers removed soil and anchored the foundations. They stabilized Pisa's tower just enough to welcome tourists, tilt included. Mars Climate Orbiter lost to simple metric versus imperial conversion. A $200 million spacecraft vanished because numbers spoke different languages. In 1999, NASA sent the Mars Climate Orbiter to study Martian weather. One engineering team calculated thruster data in pounds instead of newtons. Another team assumed metric, feeding mismatched values into the navigation software. As the orbiter approached Mars, its trajectory dipped lower than intended. Controllers expected it to skim the atmosphere and settle into stable orbit. Instead, the spacecraft passed too low and likely burned an atmosphere. Post-mission reviews highlighted how nobody cross-checked the differing unit assumptions. Today, the loss is a textbook example of why conversions matter. NASA Genesis sample capsule crashes because one sensor was installed backwards. Scientists expecting delicate solar wind samples instead received smashed hardware in Utah. The Genesis mission launched in the early 2000s to collect solar particles. Its capsule was designed to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and deploy parachutes mid-air. Helicopter pilots trained to snatch the descending capsule before it hit ground. On re-entry day, the capsule streaked in and slammed into desert. Investigators later found tiny deceleration sensors installed upside down during assembly. Because they never registered the G-forces, the system never triggered parachutes. Shockingly, some sample wafers survived the impact and were painstakingly recovered. The mission turned from graceful planned capture to painstaking crash site salvage. London Millennium Bridge opens, sways wildly, closes again after 2 days. Londoners finally got a sleek new footbridge, then immediately felt seasick crossing. The Millennium Bridge opened in 2000, linking St. Paul's to Tate Modern. Crowds poured onto the slender steel structure on its first public day. As pedestrians walked, the deck began swaying side to side in unison. People instinctively adjusted their steps, accidentally reinforcing the wobble with synchronized movement. Videos showed office workers laughing nervously as handrails shook under their grip. Engineers realized they had underestimated a phenomenon called lateral synchronous excitation. 2 days after opening, authorities shut the bridge for major retrofitting work. With extra dampers installed, the wobble disappeared, but nickname Wobbly Bridge stuck. Millennium Dome, meant to inspire Britain, opens half-finished and embarrassing. Britain tried throwing a massive party for the year 2000, then blushed. The Millennium Dome in Greenwich was built as a national celebration center. Politicians promised breathtaking exhibits showcasing British creativity, technology, and optimism. When visitors finally arrived, many pavilions felt unfinished, confusing, or oddly empty. Tickets were expensive, queues were long, and media reaction turned chilly quickly. A few attractions impressed visitors, but overall experience could not save reputation. Critics mocked the project as wasteful, pointing to political infighting and delays. After the Millennium Year, the huge tent structure struggled finding purpose. Eventually, the site was reworked into today's successful O2 Arena. Samsung Galaxy Note 7 flagship recalled after batteries keep exploding. Samsung's shiny new flagship phone briefly doubled as an accidental hand grenade. In 2016, the Galaxy Note 7 launched as a premium Android phablet. Reviewers praised its screen, stylus, and fast-charging lithium-ion battery. Soon, reports emerged of phones overheating, smoking, and in some cases igniting. Airlines began warning passengers not to turn the devices on board. Samsung issued a recall, then shipped replacement units that also started burning. Images of charred phones on hotel carpets and cars spread rapidly online. Eventually, Samsung killed the model entirely and focused on redesigning batteries. The fiasco briefly handed extra market share to Apple and smaller competitors. MoviePass Unlimited Movies plan implodes under its own generous pricing. It sounded like a dream subscription until math finally woke everyone up. MoviePass offered Americans almost unlimited theater tickets for about one ticket's price. Users could watch multiple movies monthly by checking in with an app. The company reimbursed cinemas full price, essentially subsidizing heavy moviegoers. Millions signed up, treating the card like an all-access ticket. Cash burned faster than expected, and executives scrambled for desperate restrictions. They began blocking big releases, limiting check-ins, and quietly changing terms. Customers complained, cancellations soared, and lawsuits circled around the collapsing business. In the end, the famously generous pass simply ran out of money. Quibi races billions for phone shows shuts down within months. Hollywood veterans raised piles of cash, then discovered nobody really needed Quibi. Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman launched Quibi as a mobile streaming service. Episodes were designed under 10 minutes, meant for commutes and quick breaks. The app even changed framing automatically if viewers rotated their phones. Unfortunately, Quibi launched during early pandemic lockdowns, when commutes suddenly vanished. Big-name shows struggled to break through against free social media clips. Subscribers stayed far below projections despite ads and high-profile talent. Within months, executives decided to shut everything down and refund investors. Many series were resold elsewhere, while Quibi itself became a punchline. Facebook Libra global currency meets regulators, quietly disappears from view. Facebook imagined reinventing money, then discovered governments dislike surprise private currencies. In 2019, Facebook announced Libra, a digital coin backed by financial reserves. Big partners like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal initially joined the governing association. The idea promised easy cross-border payments through WhatsApp and Messenger. Central bankers and politicians worldwide immediately worried about sovereignty and financial stability. Hearings in Washington, Brussels, and other capitals grilled Facebook executives hard. Major partners quietly dropped out, leaving the Grand Coalition looking increasingly fragile. The project, rebranded as DM, narrowed ambitions and still faced heavy opposition. Eventually, remaining assets were sold off and Libra faded into tech trivia. Fire Festival luxury island experience revealed as cheese sandwich chaos. Influencers promised a Bahamas paradise. Attendees arrived to disaster relief vibes instead. Entrepreneur Billy McFarland and rapper J. Rule sold Fire Festival as exclusive. Tickets costing thousands promised villas, gourmet catering, and performances from major artists. On Great Exuma, guests instead found FEMA-style tents and soaked mattresses. Catering became infamous for styrofoam containers holding plain cheese sandwiches and salad. Musicians canceled, logistics collapsed, and panicked attendees scrambled to leave the island. Local Bahamian workers labored without proper payment as organizers blamed each other. Social media filled with videos of chaos, rain, and stranded influencers. Investigations followed, McFarland was jailed for fraud, and fire documentaries exploded. New Coke launches, customers revolt, old formula returns almost immediately. Coca-Cola tried fixing its flagship drink and fans nearly rioted. In the 1980s, Pepsi's taste test ads unnerved executives at Coca-Cola. Company chemists developed a sweeter formula, then quietly prepared to replace classics. When New Coke rolled out, many loyal drinkers felt blindsided and insulted. Hotlines, letters, and news interviews captured people angrily defending their original recipe. Some customers stockpiled leftover classic cans, fearing they would disappear forever. Within months, the company reintroduced the old formula as Coca-Cola Classic. Sales surged, and some conspiracy theories claimed the fiasco was intentional marketing. Either way, New Coke became a textbook example of misreading brand attachment. Crystal Pepsi Clear soda hype fizzles almost immediately after launch. The drink looked like water but definitely did not sell like it. In the early 1990s, Pepsi tested a colorless cola called Crystal Pepsi. Commercials blasted rock music while soda flowed like pure mountain spring water. The idea promised a cleaner, futuristic image compared to caramel-colored competitors. However, many drinkers found the flavor strangely flat, sweet, or confusing. Supermarket shelves still held regular Pepsi, making the comparison unavoidable every visit. Sales dropped quickly after the initial curiosity, despite heavy marketing campaigns. Within about a year, the product vanished from most American stores. Every few years, nostalgic limited reruns appear, reminding everyone why it disappeared. Apple Newton handwriting computer mocked into early commercial oblivion. Before the iPhone wowed people, Apple's first handheld mostly inspired jokes. In the 1990s, Apple released the Newton Message Pad, a chunky digital organizer. Its big selling point was handwriting recognition on a stylus-driven screen. In practice, the software often misread scribbles, turning names into absurd nonsense. Cartoons mocked the device, and late-night hosts cracked endless jokes. The hardware was expensive, bulky, and struggled with battery life and speed. Developers created some clever apps, but mainstream consumers mostly stayed away. Apple eventually killed the Newton line before Steve Jobs refocused the company. Ironically, its pen ideas resurfaced years later in much sleeker products. Microsoft's Zune, positioned as iPod killer, barely scratches the market. Microsoft marched into portable music thinking brown plastic could dethrone the iPod. The Zune launched mid-2000s with a chunky design and matching software. It offered wireless song sharing, subscription music, and a dedicated online marketplace. Unfortunately, iTunes, existing iPods, and established ecosystems already dominated listener habits. Early Zunes were criticized for clunky interfaces and confusing desktop syncing tools. The brand never developed the same cool factor as Apple's white earbuds. Microsoft iterated designs, improving screens and capacities, but sales remained underwhelming. Eventually, the company folded Zune into its broader Xbox and music services. Today, Zunes mostly survive as nostalgic props in shows set then. Segway, supposed to redesign cities, becomes an awkward tourist toy. The machine, hyped to change everything, mostly changed guided tour photos instead. In 2001, inventor Dean Kamen unveiled the Segway, a self-balancing scooter. Investors and commentators predicted cities redesigned around quiet, standing personal transporters. The device used gyroscopes and sensors to keep riders upright by leaning. However, it was expensive, bulky, and banned from many sidewalk areas. Police departments and mail carriers experimented briefly, then mostly returned to vehicles. Tourism companies, however, embraced Segways for quirky city sightseeing tours worldwide. Viral clips of falls and collisions did not help its serious image. In the end, scooters and bikes transformed urban transport far more. Blockbuster laughs off buying Netflix, then watches it take over. One rejected meeting in Dallas ended up haunting a whole video empire. Around 2000, Netflix was a small DVD by mail startup losing money. Founders Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph offered partnership to Blockbuster's leadership. According to later accounts, Blockbuster executives chuckled and declined the proposal. They still made most revenue from late fees and physical rental stores. Over the next decade, Netflix pivoted into streaming movies and original shows. Blockbuster launched its own services but struggled under heavy debt and inertia. Store closures accelerated, and the once dominant brand faded from most neighborhoods. Today, a single nostalgic Blockbuster in Oregon survives while Netflix streams worldwide. Edsel car of the future debuts to awkwardly confused buyers. Ford spent millions on hype, then buyers mostly scratched their heads. In the late 1950s, the company launched Edsel as a new brand. Designers added a distinctive horse-collar grille and push-button transmission controls. Marketing promised futuristic luxury, but many features felt gimmicky or overcomplicated. Early models suffered quality problems and arrived during a national economic downturn. Some customers disliked the styling so much they mocked it publicly. Dealers struggled moving inventory, often discounting heavily just to clear lots. Within years, Ford killed the entire line and wrote off losses. Edsel still appears in textbooks as a symbol of overhyped misfires. DeLorean futuristic sports car company stalls out amid scandal and bankruptcy. The stainless steel car ended as a courtroom exhibit and movie prop. Former General Motors executive John DeLorean founded his own company in Ireland. The DeLorean sports car featured gull-wing doors and unpainted metal body panels. Early buyers complained about weak engines, leaks, and rushed build quality. Production costs ran high, and sales never matched the optimistic forecasts. Desperate for cash, DeLorean became involved in a notorious undercover drug sting. Although he was eventually acquitted, the company collapsed into bankruptcy protection. Thousands of unsold cars were left behind, later cherished by devoted enthusiasts. Concorde supersonic jet dreams end after one devastating runway crash. For decades, Concorde symbolized glamorous speed until one flight changed everything. The Anglo-French supersonic airliner carried wealthy passengers across the Atlantic quickly. On a July day in 2000, Air France Flight 4592 prepared departure. A metal strip on the runway punctured a tire as Concorde accelerated. Rubber debris struck the fuel tank, leading to a catastrophic fire. The burning jet barely gained altitude before crashing into a hotel nearby. All aboard were killed, along with several people on the ground. The tragedy, combined with rising costs, led airlines to retire Concorde. Supersonic passenger travel disappeared, leaving only nostalgic photographs and museum exhibits. Dvorak keyboard layout designed superior completely fails to replace QWERTY. One professor tried optimizing typing speed, but habit proved harder than science. In the 1930s, August Dvorak rearranged keys for efficiency and comfort. The Dvorak layout placed common letters on the home row for typists. Studies claimed improved speed and fewer errors compared with traditional QWERTY keyboards. However, millions had already learned QWERTY in schools and office training courses. Typewriter manufacturers hesitated to abandon compatibility with existing machines and manuals. Some enthusiasts adopted Dvorak, even setting records, but mainstream change never arrived. Computers later made switching layouts easier, yet QWERTY still dominated default settings. Today, Dvorak survives mostly as an option buried deep in keyboard preferences. French Army bright red pants make soldiers perfect targets in trenches. Sometimes fashion sense meets artillery, and the results are predictably terrible. Before World War I, French infantry proudly wore bright red trousers. The uniform symbolized national spirit and dated back to earlier colonial campaigns. Generals believed bold colors would inspire courage and intimidate opposing soldiers. When trench warfare began, German troops used more muted field gray uniforms. French soldiers in red, charging across open fields, were painfully easy targets. Heavy casualties and battlefield reports finally pushed the government toward horizon blue. New uniforms blended better with mud, smoke, and shattered European landscapes. Red pants became a symbol of stubborn tradition colliding with industrial warfare. Magnetic stripe credit cards meant security quickly become easy to clone. Plastic cards once felt futuristic until fraudsters treated them like cassette tapes. Swiping through a reader allowed quick authorization instead of manual paper imprinters. The data, however, sat unencrypted on dark strips visible to anyone. Criminals built skimmers, tiny devices that copied card information during legitimate transactions. Hidden cameras or fake keypads captured PIN codes at many ATMs. Cloned cards were then used overseas or at night for rapid withdrawals. Banks slowly shifted to chip and PIN technology to counter widespread cloning. Even today, some countries still fight fraud on leftover magnetic stripe systems. Big Dig Tunnel in Boston Springs leaks soon after opening. Boston's massive traffic fix opened, then immediately started dripping on commuters. The Big Dig rerouted Interstate 93 into tunnels beneath downtown Boston. Years of construction saw cost overruns, political fights, and complex engineering challenges. When sections finally opened, drivers noticed water seeping through ceilings and walls. Salt water from the harbor threatened rebar, electrical systems, and long-term durability. Inspections revealed poorly installed bolts, missing grout, and questionable quality control. In a tragic incident, a ceiling panel collapsed in one connector tunnel. Authorities launched investigations, lawsuits, and repairs even as traffic used the project. The Big Dig improved traffic, but its leaks became late-night jokes. Spruce Goose gigantic flying boat makes one short flight, then mothballed. Howard Hughes's colossal plane proved it could fly, then never flew again. During World War II, the United States sought ways to avoid submarines. Hughes proposed a huge wooden seaplane, later nicknamed the Spruce Goose. It boasted a wingspan longer than a modern wide-body jet airliner. Development dragged on with political scrutiny and questions about cost and practicality. In 1947, Hughes finally piloted the giant flying boat near Long Beach. The aircraft lifted briefly above the water, flew a short distance, landed. Afterward, it was stored in a climate-controlled hangar, never tested again. Today, visitors see the Spruce Goose in Oregon, symbolizing beautiful, overbuilt ambition. Operation Market Garden skips around German lines, lands on Panzer divisions. Allies tried jumping past defenses, then landed near concentrated surviving armored units. In 1944, Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery planned bold airborne assaults across Netherlands. Paratroopers from Britain, America, and Poland were to seize key river bridges. Armored columns would then race up a single narrow road for relief. Intelligence underestimated German tank strength, especially near the Dutch town of Arnhem. The British airborne at Arnhem held out heroically but soon lacked ammunition. Relief tanks were delayed by traffic, blown bridges, and constant German attacks. Eventually, many paratroopers were captured or withdrew across the Rhine under fire. The operation stalled, later summarized by one phrase, "a bridge too far." Decca Records rejects the Beatles as having no commercial future. One London audition convinced executives that guitar groups were basically over. On New Year's Day 1962, the Beatles traveled from Liverpool to Decca. The lineup included John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Pete Best. They recorded a long demo tape covering rock, ballads, and show tunes. Decca executives later chose another act and passed on signing the Beatles. One famous explanation reportedly claimed guitar groups were on the way out. Manager Brian Epstein shopped the tape until EMI producer George Martin listened. Under EMI, the band soon released singles that exploded across Britain. Decca's decision became legendary, a music industry equivalent of passing on gold. Google+, built to crush Facebook, quietly shuts down instead. Google tried weaving social into everything, and users mostly shrugged politely. Launched in 2011, Google+ aimed to challenge Facebook's dominance online. Features like circles let users sort contacts into carefully curated sharing groups. Google integrated the service into Gmail, YouTube comments, and other core products. Many people created accounts automatically but rarely visited the actual social feed. Posts often felt empty, with more marketers than actual everyday friends. Security issues later exposed user data from dormant profiles, prompting renewed scrutiny. Google eventually announced the consumer version would be wound down and closed. Google Glass, futuristic smart glasses yanked after privacy backlash and ridicule. Some gadgets look science fiction cool until strangers think they are recording. Google Glass debuted around 2013 as lightweight frames with a tiny display. Early adopters, called explorers, paid high prices to test the wearable computer. The device showed notifications, directions, and camera feeds near the user's eye. But in bars, theaters, and sidewalks, bystanders worried about constant hidden filming. Some venues banned glass wearers. The term glass hole started circulating online. Battery life, limited apps, and sticker shock also chipped away at enthusiasm. By 2015, Google stopped selling the consumer version and shifted toward workplaces. Glass never became mainstream, but it helped shape debates around everyday surveillance. Amazon Fire Phone ambitious smartphone experiment discounted, then quietly discontinued. Even Amazon could not simply wishlist its way into smartphone dominance. In 2014, the Fire Phone launched with deep integration into Amazon Shopping. Its cameras created a 3D-like interface, moving icons as you tilted. A feature called Firefly recognized products and pushed users toward Amazon listings. However, the phone was expensive, exclusive to one carrier, and lacked apps. Reviewers criticized mediocre battery life, cameras, and an ecosystem missing Google services. Consumers stuck with Android and iPhones, leaving Fire phones sitting unsold. Within about a year, Amazon wrote off unsold inventory and ended production. The company later found more success with Echo speakers and Alexa devices.